This is where the fear-mongering of carbohydrates has really destroyed our gut. Eating low carb can really mess up your gut afterwards because you don't supply enough prebiotics to feed your microbiome enough. So this is why you might be quote unquote okay with some foods for a while, and then all of a sudden it feels like you're triggered by more things, you have more bloating, more digestion issues that you never really had before until this time in your life. So now the thing that you guys all want to know about is, how does it impact fat loss? Hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I'm your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness coaching company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether it be the hot flashes, the night sweats, irritability, brain fog, or weight gain around the middle. That seems to come out of absolutely nowhere, despite you not changing anything. So you go back to those tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet it feels like nothing is working. You're putting in all this effort and you're just moving backwards. But we know now that your body is inherently different now that you've gone through these hormonal changes. So our mission here at Vitality is to really help you understand how your body changes in this time of your life, so you can reach those health and fitness goals, feel in control and at home in your body again, live a life full of vitality, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today, I have a very special podcast. I have 4 of my incredibly talented, amazing coaches on the podcast, and we are talking all things gut health, how that changes during perimenopause and menopause when your hormones start to change. We also cover specifically butyrate. We talk about pre- and post-biotics as well. We talk about probiotics. We talk about the types of foods you should be eating, the things that can be affecting your gut health negatively, which is going to then influence your inflammation and your insulin resistance and your ability to lose weight, and how butyrate specifically is going to help with all these areas and what that actually is. So I hope you enjoy this, that you learn so much, and don't forget to share the podcast with all your friends who could need a little extra help. Today, we are going to dive into a topic that is very often overlooked when addressing women's health, especially once they are in perimenopause and menopause. And I have a bunch of my wonderful coaches here today to help me out with this one as well. They did tons of research. So this is going to be a great podcast for us, but many of us know or might come to understand that our gut plays an incredible role when it comes to not only our health, but it works with so many different systems in our body, which is really still in the midst of discovery, right? There is so many things that we still do not know, but we know the gut is so intricately related to so many areas in our body. And so far, there is research that shows in perimenopause and menopause significantly influences our gut health through reduced microbial diversity. And this has a lot to do with estrogen. The changes in estrogen, they affect the gut microbiome's diversity and its function. So this is why you might be quote unquote okay with some foods for a while, and then all of a sudden it feels like you're triggered by more things, you have more bloating, more digestion issues that you never really had before until this time in your life. We also know that when the gut flora changes, it can have metabolic implications like struggling to lose weight, or weight gain becomes very easy. And energy metabolism starts to change as well. And if we are struggling with gut issues, we can see an increase in perimenopause symptoms. So today we are diving into one area of the gut that has been a hot topic in research lately. It is the role of post-biotics. So Coach Hannah and I actually did a podcast on pre and post-biotics quite a long time ago. Today, we are going to focus solely on the role of post-biotics, and we are going to explore what exactly they are, how they are affected by perimenopause and menopause, and also give you some action steps to really help you support your gut during this time in your life, so that when you start to experience changes in your gut health during the menopause transition, we can really, address these things now. So to start off, we are going to review the ways that menopause can affect the microbiome and the different type of biotics that we have in our system. So Chelsea, how is the gut, first of all, affected by perimenopause and menopause specifically?
So I'm going to start by talking about some of the hormonal changes and how those can affect our gut. So as we go through the menopausal transition, we can see systemic, which means our whole body changes and impacts because of the changes and fluctuations in our hormones. These hormones can influence the gut microbiome, our motility, so how often and how regularly we're going to the bathroom, and our gut barrier function. So the first way that this can happen is through changes in our gut microbiome and our estrogen metabolism. The gut microbiome plays a crucial role in regulating our entire metabolism and plays a role in breaking down and detoxing our estrogen out of our system. When the gut microbiome changes during menopause, it can influence how our estrogen gets metabolized, which can then have effects on our metabolic health, and we can see changes in our whole body. When we're in menopause specifically, it impacts our gut microbiome drastically. There's research that shows that women who have gone through menopause have more of a gut bacteria that is more similar to that of a man's than that of a woman in their reproductive years. Menopause can lead to a reduction in our diversity, which can impair our gut function. We can see changes in our immunity, and we can see those changes in how our metabolism is functioning. This change in our diversity can lead to something known as dysbiosis, which is when we have an imbalance in our gut bacteria. This can be associated with a number of symptoms like impaired gut function, so we may see things like increased gas and bloating, or even changes in our motility, so an uptick in constipation or diarrhea. As I mentioned earlier, it can also change how our immune system is functioning and how our body is choosing to utilize energy. One of the other really interesting findings that they're coming out with right now is that we're seeing changes in the ratio of different bacteria in our gut. So we have a wide variety of gut bacteria, but two in particular, Firmicutes and Bacteroidetes, have been shown that we can often see a shift in the ratio between these two bacteria. When we have a higher ratio of the Firmicutes, and again, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, I'm hoping I am, it can often be linked to obesity and other metabolic disorders, which are common concerns for postmenopausal women. I'm going to pass it over to Tay, and she's going to talk about how our gut microbiome composition changes.
Yeah, so now that we know menopause can affect our gut diversity, let's look at how. So number one, some evidence suggests that women may lose their previously high microbiome diversity compared to men as they age because of menopause and the hormonal shifts that we experience. Number two, a study found that markers of microbial translocation increased in women transitioning to menopause. Microbial translocation is a movement of bacteria or their products from the GI tract into the bloodstream. And this could be because of the lower estradiol levels that are associated with higher markers of the gut barrier dysfunction. Number three, dysbiosis has been linked to increased inflammation, which we know inflammation is already a regular part of the menopausal transition. Weight gain and GI issues like gas and bloating, that dysbiosis will just make worse. And then lastly, as estrogen declines, this intestinal barrier can weaken, allowing harmful substances like endotoxins, which are substances that are part of a harmful bacteria, to leak into the bloodstream. This triggers an immune response and may contribute to inflammation, insulin resistance, cardiovascular disease, and obesity. So now that we've looked at the different ways that our gut can be affected by perimenopause and menopause, Hannah's going to review the different parts that make up the rainforest of our gut microbiome.
So before we dive into that part, I want to summarize kind of briefly what we just talked about. So just to summarize it for everyone, gut microbiome, when it's healthy, when it's good, metabolism's going to be faster. We're going to be able to absorb nutrients better. We're not going to have food sensitivities. We're not going to experience the bloating, the constipation, the runs. We're going to have way less inflammation in our body. But then as our estrogen levels start to fluctuate and estrogen starts to decline overall, we see that we have more inflammation. That's going to contribute to potentially more leaky gut. It's going to change our gut microbiome, which can also increase more inflammation, more bloating. That's going to result in more leaky gut. We see more dysbiosis as well. And so all of these things, when our gut isn't in a healthy place, we know that it's going to be a lot harder to lose weight. It's a lot harder to be healthy. It's more likely that you will experience an increased risk in insulin resistance. You'll see an increased risk in different chronic conditions that we see all the time. And there's a reason why the statistics show that women, once they hit perimenopause, menopause, the years that follow, their instances of developing chronic conditions increases substantially compared to where they were before and compared to men. And it's really important to understand how estrogen and perimenopause already puts us in kind of this not so great position, and why gut health becomes so important to really start taking care of. And you could be like, well, I never had to deal with this before. Like, right? I didn't change anything. This is where things have changed internally, changing how your gut actually functions, how like good it functions, where now we got to take extra care of it and actually be more intentional about it. Because otherwise it's going to really prevent us from being healthy and also being able to achieve our health and fitness goals, whatever those may be. So now I'll let Hannah kind of go into pre and pro and post-biotics, because those are all different kinds. They all have different purposes, and you'll be kind of surprised at where some of them come from, actually. So Hannah, I'll let you take it away.
Yes. So just as a little caveat to this section, this is just a quick review on all of these because we have done a complete podcast on all of the biotics. But as we know, gut health is extremely important for our overall well-being, including weight management and our metabolism. We have 39 trillion microorganisms living in our colon, which aid in our digestion. These organisms are called biotics. So these include strains of bacteria, viruses, parasites, yeasts, and archaea. An imbalance of these microorganisms is called dysbiosis. So dysbiosis can lead to inflammation, leaky gut, or intestinal permeability. It can also lead to SIBO and food sensitivities as well. So there are 4 main types of biotics in our digestive system, and these include prebiotics, probiotics, synbiotics, and postbiotics. Prebiotics are live microbes that are beneficial for health, which are usually found in fiber. Probiotics are food for beneficial microbes that reside in or on the host that provide a health benefit and can be found in fermented foods like yogurt and sauerkraut and kimchi. Synbiotics are a combination of prebiotics and postbiotics that work together in order to provide specific health benefits. And postbiotics are produced by gut microbes as a result of fermentation of dietary fiber and other nutrients within the gut. Unlike our live probiotics, postbiotics are non-living substances that are created as byproducts when probiotics do their work. Postbiotics also play an essential role in our health. Some examples include short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, acetate, and propionate. They play some really, really important roles, like giving energy to the cells of our gut, keeping the lining of our gut nice and strong, reducing inflammation, and also helping to control blood sugars and insulin sensitivity within the body. Postbiotics also create enzymes that help us to break down food, vitamins, and antioxidants like B12, K2, and glutathione, as well as conjugated linoleic acid, abbreviated, and you'll probably see more frequently, CLA, and that helps to manage fat storage and reduce inflammation as well. The episode that we reviewed all of these different biotics is episode number 101.
And so before we jump into the next thing, I always like to point this out, the prebiotics. Prebiotics are so important for gut microbiome. They are found in fiber. The best prebiotics come from carbohydrates. This is why when you eat a really low carb diet, we tend to see afterwards, when you try to reintroduce things, your gut really struggles. You can't handle it as well. And it's because you don't have enough prebiotics and the right microbiome balance to really help you support you during these things. So this is why we really say, like, you don't want to eat super low carb. Sometimes we might do like a little low carb section for a very short period of time. We're talking maybe a couple weeks, very specific end date, what we're doing, what kind of foods you're eating, typically around some gut health type things to help support you. But this is where eating low carb can really mess up your gut afterwards because you don't supply enough prebiotics to feed your microbiome enough. So if you want more details on pre and postbiotics, like we talked about, like brands and different kinds, supplementation, the foods to eat, all that stuff. That's in episode 101. So you can go back to that episode if you want to get more detail on this stuff specifically, if you want to really dive into the pre and postbiotic stuff. But now, Kirsten, I will let you take it away with more things here.
Okay, so now that we've covered how the gut changes during perimenopause, menopause, and we've reviewed the different types of biotics that we have in the body, now we're going to dive into one of the postbiotics that can play a big role in keeping our gut healthy, and that is butyrate. It's a short chain fatty acid, and it's created when gut bacteria break down carbohydrates, fiber, like we just talked about, or proteins through fermentation, which means that the body breaks them down without the use of oxygen. And why do we want this? Butyrate does more than just give energy to the cells in your colon. It also acts like a helper in many ways to keep your gut healthy. One amazing thing that butyrate is how it affects your genes by stopping certain enzymes. And this leads to changes in how genes work and help with boosting our immune system, fighting cancer, helping cells grow and develop properly, strengthening the gut lining, reducing damage from stress in the body, stopping diarrhea, easing belly pain, keeping digestion running smoothly. The research about butyrate is just starting to emerge. So many studies have been done in animals that there have been so many promising studies that have been found that butyrate and butyrate producing microbes can protect against or are associated with less severe symptoms for chronic conditions like allergies, IBS, rheumatoid arthritis, Parkinson's, type 2 diabetes, high blood sugar, and even insomnia and anxiety.
So that sounds like something you guys probably want to have more of, is more butyrate, because it helps with a lot of the conditions that women in perimenopause and menopause are more predisposed to developing. It's going to help you with so many things like, supporting yourself against cancer, helping your cells actually develop properly, boosting your immune system so you're not getting sick as often, but also reducing damage from stress in your body, which we know is a massive thing that we talk about here at Vitality. It's massive, 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 very big theme, right? So let's talk about its roles in the body specifically. So butyrate is a vital energy source for colon cells, plays a crucial role in maintaining your gut health, helps support the healthy cell growth and fat breakdown while aiding in digestion and intestinal motility. All of that sounds phenomenal, and I want all those things. It also contributes to overall energy utilization and the production of essential regulatory chemicals like serotonin. I did a whole podcast on serotonin, and we talked about how important it is for mood, for appetite, for sleep, and all the things that we generally struggle with in perimenopause and menopause. Everything is so interconnected. You will learn this. We're going to point you to, this podcast and this podcast and this podcast, because everything is so interconnected. This is why when we hyper focus on one thing, it typically doesn't always work that well, because everything is connected. Butyrate may influence serotonin production in the gut, because that's where most of your serotonin is going to be produced, which can impact overall well-being and mental health. And we want to have lots of serotonin production because our body needs more of it to get the same effect compared to premenopause. So butyrate can also change the balance of bacteria in our gut and protect the gut from damage, especially in people who struggle with obesity or diabetes. It can help improve gut health by strengthening the walls of the intestines, which prevents those harmful substances from leaking into the body. So we talked a little bit about leaky gut, where if you get lots of inflammation in your gut, the lining almost stretches. So I like to think of it almost as like pantyhose. And so when it's together, you can't really see the holes. And then when it starts to stretch and get like what would happen if it were to get inflamed, it gets stretched, you can start to see those little holes. And those holes can get bigger and bigger the more you stretch it. And then things can pass through that you don't want to. And this is going to trigger more inflammation, more reactions in your body. You're more likely to develop autoimmune conditions that way as well. So it's something that we really need to be aware of. And it's something that we already struggle with a little bit more during perimenopause and menopause. So very, very important to have. In animals, butyrate has been shown to reduce food intake and improve metabolism by affecting the hormones that control hunger and digestion. We all have struggled with those crazy cravings, and then we have the thing, and then it doesn't really satisfy you, and then you start looking for something else, unless it's sourdough. You guys, sourdough, I was telling people yesterday on a call, or maybe 2 days ago, we bought sourdough from my friend's little local market. I'm halfway through that loaf, and I've only had it for 2.5 days. It is delicious. It is so good. It is so satisfying. It's the perfect snack. I love it. But that's a side point. Butyrate doesn't just affect the gut. It can increase the body's energy use, improving the balance of fats and sugars, and even help reduce inflammation. These are all things we struggle with in perimenopause and menopause. Some studies in animals have shown that butyrate can also help with weight loss, improve insulin sensitivity, which we know is important for controlling blood sugar, which also gets worse when our estrogen levels decline. But of course, results are still a little bit limited. There's not too many human studies yet, not enough where we can say with confidence, this causes this is the cause, the effect, but we can start looking at these associations, which is awesome. And the effects, of course, are likely going to depend a bit on person's individual biology and health conditions, right? This is why we're so focused on doing assessments when people come into coaching. Even when we're doing the free calorie calculation calls, we ask you so many questions. There's a lot of questions on the form when you fill it in, and people get annoyed, but we're not going to give you advice unless we have all this information, because everything is going to be it depends kind of situation. We need to know what your body has been through, what it's going through right now, what the past is like, because that's going to, again, determine a lot about the advice that we give you. And it's the same thing with this kind of stuff. Since the research on butyrate is still emerging, that at the time that we're recording this, we know that it may reduce some inflammation. We know that it can improve certain aspects of your immune function. So that means, your body can respond to things better. So it'll, you won't get sick as often. You can recover quicker. But results aren't always clear. We need to have more studies, obviously. But overall, butyrate has many potential benefits, but we need a little bit more research to really confirm how it's functioning in the body a little bit more to really understand that process. So now the thing that you guys all want to know about is, how does it impact fat loss? Because that's why everyone's here, right? So Chelsea, I'll let you take that away.
Yes. Okay. So, and again, this research is still emerging. So right now we're looking at a lot of animal studies, which are not always 100% ideal because they don't correlate exactly with what happens in our human bodies, but they are kind of the foundational research that's done to make connections and correlations with what potentially could happen in human bodies. So, scientists studied how butyrate helps with appetite and energy use in mice to better understand its benefits. And here were some of the things that they found. Number one, when butyrate was given through the stomach, it made them eat less. So this was stomach compared to through blood. Researchers believe that this is because the butyrate's significant role in the gut-brain axis. So we all know that our gut and our brain are so interconnected, and they believe that it can affect certain areas of the brain that control hunger and makes them less active. The next thing was that butyrate helped to prevent problems like obesity, high insulin levels, high triglycerides, and fatty liver disease. These benefits mostly came from controlling their caloric intake, so helping to regulate their appetite. They also found that butyrate increases fat burn from activating our brown fat. And we have many different kinds of fat, but brown fat is one of our healthier forms of fat. This is the type of fat that uses energy to create heat for our body. This wasn't because the mice ate less, but because butyrate increased the nerve signals to that brown fat. Now, it also helped to produce signals from the brain, or for the brain, sorry. Butyrate can affect the production of certain molecules, like our neurotransmitters, like serotonin that Steph mentioned earlier, that are important for our mood and our brain function. And finally, in terms of mood and behavior, they also found that because butyrate can reduce inflammation and promote the production of beneficial molecules, it has been linked to improve mood and mental clarity. So, it may help with reducing symptoms of anxiety and depression, which are often linked to disruptions in the gut-brain axis.
All right, so now I'm going to talk about the reasons why butyrate might be low. And the risk factors for low butyrate actually look quite similar to the symptoms of low butyrate. This includes inflammatory issues, gut health struggles, and autoimmune conditions. So it's a double-edged sword because these can all be reasons for why butyrate is low. And then low butyrate can lead to more of these issues. So when looking at the symptoms of low butyrate, these symptoms can be systematic and show up in a number of different ways in the body, such as digestive systems like IBS, constipation or diarrhea, leaky gut syndrome, inflammatory and immune symptoms like IBD and chronic inflammation. So researchers believe that these are due to butyrate's role in reducing systemic inflammation, including inflammation in the gut. The more inflammation there is in our gut, the more likely bacteria and toxins can enter the bloodstream through the digestive tract. If you experience an increase in gut distress, like constipation, diarrhea, bloating, or are feeling more inflamed overall, it's possible that you have low butyrates, or it could be a part of the great picture of dysbiosis.
Now we're going to talk about some of the metabolic symptoms of low butyrate. So we have insulin resistance, weight gain, and then as previously mentioned, butyrate plays a role in our weight management as well as fat loss, and of course our hormones too. So insulin resistance can be a symptom of low butyrate because it can impair our glucose metabolism. Anytime that we see disruptions in our gut microbiome, we experience inflammation or we experience insulin resistance, it is potential it can lead to weight gain. We also have some neurological and psychological symptoms as well, like brain fog, mood disorders, and we've already discussed how the role of butyrate in the gut impacts gut health related symptoms. And because our gut and brain are directly connected by the vagus nerve, low butyrate can in fact translate into neurological and psychological symptoms too. Some other symptoms that you may experience are poor energy, low immunity, and food tolerances as well.
So I'm going to summarize a whole bunch of things here before we go into what can you do to improve your butyrate. But I want you to kind of make this connection now of like, okay, the symptoms of like low butyrate are also very similar to, when we're not eating enough food, when our hormones really start to decline, when we're not getting enough sleep, our recovery isn't enough, the high cortisol type stuff. All of this is so intimately related. And you'll see a lot of the time when we talk in the podcast, like things that help improve one category usually improve other things. And this is why when we're doing assessments with our clients when they come into the program, is we assess all these things. Like we're talking the stress stuff, the hormone stuff, the gut health stuff, like so many different categories, because then we can see which one has the most red flags, which one has the most likely reason that's really addressing, like what's that root cause that's really holding you back? Because we know if we address that big root cause, the other ones are probably going to improve because everything's so intricately related. So you could have low butyrate, but by improving butyrate levels, you might also be magically working on the things that help improve your cortisol levels, the things that magically help improve your hormonal balance, right? So I want you to keep that in mind as we're like talking about these things, because it's never just one thing. Your body, again, is super intricately related. So things that you've learned about butyrate and gut health so far, before we dive into the what can you do to improve gut health and butyrate levels in your body to help support your hormones, your metabolism, your blood sugar control, all those things. So we can see, first and foremost, huge changes in our gut health in the menopausal transition because of the changes in our gut microbiome diversity, thanks to those hormone levels that are changing, particularly estrogen. The changes in our gut microbiome make us far more susceptible to issues like inflammation, leaky gut, dysbiosis, which we're already at increased risk for in perimenopause and menopause because of these hormonal symptoms or hormonal changes. We have 4 main types of biotics in our microbiome. Prebiotics, these ones are living. They are good for our health, found in fiber-rich foods like garlic, onion, oats, sweet potato, unripe bananas, aka all carbohydrates. We have probiotics, which are living microorganisms that usually bacteria or yeast that help maintain a healthy balance of microbes in the gut. So they want to have a balance of all the different kinds that we need. Then we have our symbiotics, which are a combination of pre and postbiotics working together to support the gut. So it's hard to have these if you're missing one of the other ones. Then we have postbiotics, which are non-living products that come from the fermentation of the fibers and other nutrients that play a number of roles in our gut lining to keep it strong, to lower our inflammation, to regulate our blood sugars and our insulin sensitivity. And one of those probiotics is called butyrate. Butyrate is a short chain fatty acid that can impact a number of different systems in our body, like our immune system, helping with healthy cell growth and prevent cancers that way, right? Then tumor growth won't be as aggressive. We're seeing strengthening of our gut lining to help decrease those symptoms, helping support motility. So we're having regular bowel movements. And there is research that suggests that butyrate can help with fat loss because it's been shown to help you have a more consistent caloric intake. You're not being really high some days and low one day. And this is because of the control it has on your hunger hormones. So the ones that tell you that you're hungry, the ones that tell you that you're full and satisfied, those are actually at the levels they're supposed to be at. It increases fat burning by activating brown fat and affecting certain areas of your brain that actually control hunger. Signs of low butyrate can affect so many parts of your body. So there can be digestive symptoms like gut distress, right? It can play a role in metabolic issues like poor insulin sensitivity, so you're insulin resistant. We can see neurological symptoms like the brain fog, the mood, poor energy, and increase in food intolerances that you didn't have before. So that's a summary of like that stuff. So now I really want to dive into, okay, most of us are probably struggling with this in some capacity. Let's be honest. Our guts are not in great shape, especially once we hit this time in our life. So now we're going to tackle what can you do to improve your gut health and butyrate levels specifically, which is also going to help affect other areas in your body to help improve your metabolism overall.
Okay, so there are a number of things that we can do to support low butyrate and also make sure we are doing what we can to keep optimal levels of butyrate in our system. One of the first things is consuming a high fiber diet, and recommended daily amount of fiber for women would be approximately 25 grams or about 14 grams for every 1,000 calories you consume. Many people are getting far less in their diet, so tracking your food can give you a really good idea of what your fiber levels are. Some examples of fibers that help make butyrate include resistant starch foods, things like unripe bananas like we just talked about, legumes, cooled down cooked potatoes. I love my leftover rice, for example, pasta, those things that are thrown in the fridge and taken out the next day are great for resistant starch benefits. They're in whole grains, whole wheats like bread and cereal, plants like onions and artichokes. Resistant starch is particularly good at boosting butyrate production compared to other fibers. Studies show that when people eat fiber like inulin, which can be found in foods like onion, garlic, Jerusalem artichokes, dandelion greens, and whole grains, they have more butyrate in their blood, which can help with weight loss and insulin control. And butyrate is also found in some foods like butter and cheese, especially those made with milk fat. And in these foods, butyrate is linked to fat molecules and is quickly used by our bodies.
So I want to highlight there, butyrate can help with your blood sugar control from fiber, a fiber that comes from whole grain wheat products like bread, like cereals. We see it in cooked and then cooled, like eaten the next day, your rice, your pasta, your potatoes, your legumes, right? Onion and garlic is great. I put garlic in literally everything. It's amazing. Love my onions as well. So this is where the fear mongering of carbohydrates has really destroyed our gut, made us struggle now with like bloating and things like that because our gut lining is not in a good place. And so you want to increase these slowly. And the benefit in these is the resistant starches, the types of fibers that really help support butyrate, which are going to help with your blood sugar control and improving your insulin sensitivity, keeping you full longer, and help with your metabolic health long term, which a lot of people, when they hear that, freak out because everyone's told you carbs are bad. No, those things aren't going to spike your blood sugars in the same way. And when's the last time you just had like a bowl of just baked potato? Like people don't do that. You usually eat it with something. So if you're having your veggies and protein beforehand, you're going to be fine. But everyone has just made this blanket statement of like carbs are bad for blood sugar, which is not true. So I just want to like really like push that forward. You may panic a little bit. We did a whole podcast on carbs. You can go back to that as well, and start slow, right? If you go from 0 carbs to a lot of carbs, gut's probably going to take some time with all the new fibers to like get used to it because it's harder to break down, and digestion, which is good. You burn more calories from consuming those foods, which is great during the digestive process. So start small, increase slowly over time, introduce it to your breakfast. Then after a week or so, introduce it to your lunch. Slow changes over time. So now Chelsea is going to talk about fermented foods.
Yes. So fermented foods are foods that contain live, active strains of bacteria, are probiotics. When we consume fermented foods, it can positively influence our gut microbiota composition and how our gut functions. there have been a number of studies that have shown that eating fermented dairy products, so that's things like your yogurt or your kefir, increase postbiotics, specifically those short-chain fatty acids like our butyrate in the gut. So where can we get fermented foods? Like what food sources do they come from? These are things like your Greek yogurt, your kimchi, your sauerkraut, your apple cider vinegar, your miso, kombucha, but you want to make sure you're choosing the low sugar options there. Our sourdough bread, which as Steph talked about earlier, yes, we want as much sourdough bread as we can get. Our natto, and then tempeh as well.
Yeah, so I'm with Steph. I love sourdough bread, and I just make it on repeat every week. It's just like it's just a constant train. So let's talk about what we can do to incorporate more of those foods. So instead of focusing on such a high-fat diet, or like those keto approaches we may see, diets that are high in fat and low in other macronutrients like carbs can decrease the diversity of our gut bacteria. This can also lead to a reduction in the population of bacteria that can produce butyrate. Focusing on having a diet with a balance on macronutrients and an emphasis on fiber-rich foods help to promote the healthy gut flora that we're looking to have and continue to support.
I am also on the chain of sourdough love. Currently, my friend and I have been baking different flavors of sourdough and trading with each other anytime we go into the gym. So yes, sourdough is wonderful.
We're so big on sourdough here. I will never forget the time. I love traveling with Hannah because she like legitimately just like hops on a plane with a loaf of sourdough that she's baked and brings it to us, and I love it. It's the best.
Can't let it go bad. I gotta take it with you. Where the people are, the sourdough will be consumed.
I've got to tell you too, like our household is primarily gluten-free, and my husband has made his own gluten-free sourdough. And I'm not going to lie, it's not the same as regular sourdough, but it's still good. Like it's much more dense, but it's still delicious.
Well, and if you toast it,
exactly.
You know,
the toasting,
it's just,
everything.
You're good. You're good. You can't even tell. It's the best. We're team sourdough. Free the sourdough, free the carbs every day.
Every day, truly every day. So what are some other foods that are linked to butyrate production and some best practices here? So the best way to enhance butyrate in your system is quite literally to feed your gut bacteria, which include bifidobacterium, faecalbacterium, eubacterium, and roseburia. Again, words that I may not be pronouncing correctly. No judgment here. But butyrate is produced when these bacteria in the lower gut feast on fiber that is found in foods like whole grains. So things like oatmeal, brown rice, whole wheat, and then also legumes such as beans, lentils, chickpeas, and also fruits, veg, nuts, and seeds. And even dark chocolate is a source. And just like sourdough, I am a huge fan of dark chocolate.
So if you haven't figured out that you need carbs by now, I don't know how to help you. Okay, lifestyle factors. These are things that you also need to keep into account because it's not just always what we eat. What we eat is going to have obviously a massive impact, but there's a lot of things where like, you know, you could be eating quote unquote really clean, really healthy, lots of fiber, and still be really struggling. And this is why. So the first one is staying hydrated. Staying hydrated makes it so much easier for our intestines and makes it easier for fiber and prebiotics to do their job to help bacteria to ferment that fiber into butyrate. If you are dehydrated, our body has to work a lot harder. Also, when we're dehydrated, we see inflammation go up, which is going to really mess up our gut even more, make it even harder to lose weight as well. And we also know that when you are dehydrated, your body like sends a signal to your kidneys to stop producing as much urine. So your body holds on to more water. So you'll actually be bloated for a few days after because your body's trying to compensate and hold on to water to do all these things that it needs, but it doesn't have enough water in its system. So this is why hydration is so massive for helping detox, improving inflammation, but also in order for butyrate to even be produced. Then exercising regularly. Regular exercise has been shown to positively influence the diversity and composition of the gut microbiome. Wild. So cool. Healthier gut equals better fiber fermentation, higher butyrate production. So this is where you're making sure you're getting regular activity, whether it's getting your steps in or you're getting some like solid strength training in 2 to 3 days a week. It doesn't have to be super crazy stuff because otherwise we end up with too much stress, which is the next one. We need to manage stress. You guys are going to hear me say this on literally every podcast if you're new here. Chronic stress negatively affects our entire body, and the gut is no exception. It negatively impacts the gut microbiome. It disrupts the balance of our microbiome overall as well. It's going to increase inflammation. So this is where if you're working out every day, it could be too much. And for a lot of women, it is. If you're not getting enough sleep, if you're eating too low calorie, if you are high calorie one day, low calorie the next, you're eating too low carb, you're not getting enough sleep, you are rushing, go, 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 you're skipping breakfast, coffee on an empty stomach, you're working through your lunch break, you're rushing around, being the taxi mom, dealing with deadlines and finances, and your dog pooped on the floor and your kid forgot their lunch, then one kid's sick and threw up at school, you got to go and pick them up. Like you're just go, 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 go all day. And you're like, well, I'm used to it. Doesn't matter. It's not what you like perceive like logically as stress. It's what your body perceives as stress. And all of that, your body will perceive as stress. So this is something that you need to be super aware of because when we're in that stress state, we're going to see more inflammation. We're going to see more insulin resistance. That's going to also drive more inflammation if our blood sugars are erratic. But also it slows down digestion because blood flow goes away from our gut into our arms and legs to like quote unquote fight the bear, right, or run away from the bear. So even if you're just sitting there doom scrolling, pissed off at your best friend because she lost 10 pounds and she posted it on Instagram and now you're mad, doesn't matter. Your body's like, oh, fight or flight. So then what happens is when blood flows away from your gut, that motility slows down. We see more inflammation. Bloating progresses. So if you're someone who has bloating that gets worse throughout the day, typically this is what's going on. So you need to focus on some stress management practices, whether that be like some yoga, some box breathing. So breathing in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. It could be doing feet up on the wall, like we always talk about, gratitude, maybe time in prayer. Maybe it's doing a devotional. Maybe it's, listening to some really calming music. Maybe it's sitting outside, letting the sun hit your face. You are slowing down. Your heart rate and breathing rate are slowing down. So stress management is not exercise. This is because that's going to raise your cortisol too. We're talking about slowing down your heart rate, slowing down your breathing rate. Maybe it's some cross stitching, right? Knitting, crocheting, coloring book, whatever it might be, but your heart rate and breathing rate come down. That's the key point that you need to be aware of. And if you have a hard time with that, that means you need to do it even more because it's a problem. You also want to limit processed foods and artificial sweeteners. This is a big one for me. Some artificial sweeteners have been shown to negatively affect the gut microbiome, potentially reducing butyrate production. Highly processed foods lead to an increase in inflammation, especially in the gut, which can reduce butyrate production even more. Reducing or avoiding processed foods and artificial sweeteners can really support your gut health. So for me, myself, there are like 3 brands of protein bars that I can actually have. 3 like protein powders that I have had that like haven't messed up my stomach. I can't do a lot of the artificial sweeteners. Like I have to be very cautious about that kind of stuff because my gut reacts very poorly and that is highly processed. So when we're talking about limit processed foods, that means the protein bars and the protein pancakes and the protein muffins that you're buying and the keto wraps and the low carb breads, because those are all filled with a lot of artificial sweeteners and they're highly processed, right? Way more processed than just buying regular whole grain bread or sourdough bread. So you have to understand where those things can be helpful. But if we're having them all of the time, it's not an accidental thing where it's like, oh, I had to do this because I was low on my protein. No, that's you being a poor planner, which is like sucks to hear, but it's true. So I will have a protein bar every now and then if I happen to be out and then we're rushing around, because I'd rather have the protein bar and then have a meal at home than swing by the McDonald's drive-through, right? But if that's something that's happening every single day, that's a poor planning situation. And then the next one is get enough sleep. Good quality sleep is important for maintaining a healthy gut. Studies suggest that poor sleep can negatively impact your gut microbiome, while adequate rest supports the microbial balance and enhances butyrate production. And this is likely because when we have poor sleep, inflammation goes up, blood sugar control is more erratic, cortisol is higher. So all of that, again, goes hand in hand. So you need to make sure you're getting like at least 7 hours of sleep. We know that when you get less than that, it's a lot harder to lose fat and very easy to lose muscle mass. Hunger, hormones get all erratic, blood sugar control gets wild, inflammation goes up. So sleep is a massive part of this. So you could be eating super clean and eating all the things that we talk about, but if you're dealing with a lot of stress and you're not slowing down, you're not getting enough sleep, you are not hydrated and doing like proper activity, and you're relying mostly on like protein bars and things like that you feel are healthy, that's going to make it so that you're not successful. Like those things can absolutely completely counteract all the hard work that you're trying to put in quote unquote eating clean, eating healthy.
And if we talk about what we can do to help with supplementation, we do want to say before anything, you need to have the basics in place first. You can't just take supplements and expect everything to work. They are that key kind of targeted protocol that you would add with all the basics that you already have, your diet, your lifestyle, and everything else in between. So when you have that all in place, some supplements that can help with butyrate are sodium butyrate or calcium magnesium butyrate, butyric acid, apologies if I said that incorrectly, probiotic fiber supplement or prebiotic fiber supplements to promote butyrate production, and butyrate enhanced probiotics. Probiotic supplements can help gut health and are especially important after taking antibiotics to repopulate the good bacteria. Different strains of probiotics include lactobacillus, biofidobacterium, again, apologies, yeast-based strains, and soil-based probiotics, also known as SBOs. It is important to choose high-quality probiotic supplements and to cycle through different types to maintain gut balance. And they should be kept refrigerated. A lot of times when you purchase certain supplements, you want to make sure, especially with probiotics, prebiotic ones that you purchase, that they are to go in the fridge. Some of them will come and half of the good bacteria in them could be not alive because they might not be made as quality. Repopulating the gut after antibiotics is critical and can be achieved by eating a variety of fiber sources and taking probiotic supplements. Supplementation alone will not cut it.
Well, and with supplementation too, we talked about this on the podcast Hannah and I did back in episode 101, where you need to cycle through it. So like people will just like take a supplementation and stick with it forever when it comes to pre and probiotics, but you don't want to do that because then you're just like going to keep increasing certain strains and then you can have too much of stuff. So you're supposed to cycle through different types. So like to learn how to do that, go back to episode 101, because this is one of the biggest mistakes that we've seen. Like, oh, it worked really well, but now my gut's like struggling. It's like, yeah, because you're not actually using it properly. And of course, those companies aren't going to tell you to do that because they want your money. So go back to episode 101 if you want more help on the supplementation side of it for pre and probiotics. So in conclusion here, Butyrate is like a superhero for your gut health. It is a powerhouse probiotic made when good bacteria in your gut break down the fibers from the food that you eat from carbohydrates. Butyrate helps keep the lining of your gut nice and strong. It's going to lower your inflammation. It's going to provide your body with energy, which a lot of us struggle with a ton in perimenopause and menopause. It's really important during the hormonal shifts that we start experiencing that can disrupt that gut microbiome diversity, which can result in the weight gain, the bloating, the fatigue. So this is something that's really important to be aware of and understand. When your hormones are changing, your gut can get thrown off very quickly, right? You can be like, whoa, I don't know what's happening. I'm having all these gut health issues all of a sudden. But Butyrate can really help keep things balanced. But again, supplementation isn't going to do much if you're not doing the other things. So research suggests that Butyrate's influence extends far beyond just the gut itself, because it's going to impact your brain health and your mood, even fat loss by regulating that gut-brain axis, increasing the activity of the brown fat that we talked about that produces heat. And while much of the research is still emerging, the potential benefits of Butyrate in addressing like the common menopausal symptoms that we see is amazing, right? Especially the inflammation and metabolic changes that we're seeing. And the research is really promising, which is really, really exciting. So you can boost Butyrate in your body by eating foods that are high in fiber, like your fruits, your veggies, your whole grains, your potatoes. That's massive, right? Fermented foods like your yogurt and your sauerkraut, your sourdough, get that in there. Take care of your gut by eating those foods that'll help you feel better, stay healthier, provide you with more energy. But also, if you're not prioritizing the sleep, if you're not prioritizing removing a lot of processed foods and artificial sweeteners, so we're not relying on that, if we're not managing our stress, we're not exercising the right way and staying hydrated, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. And this is where consistency in those quote unquote boring things, we're like, I don't see any changes. It takes time, but like those are the things that are going to help you get to a healthier place to be able to lose weight, but then also keep the weight off. Because we don't want to do this yo-yo dieting all the time, right? We don't want to be worried about all these chronic disease risks anymore. So those are the things that are going to really help support you in the long run. So if you think you're having these issues with butyrate, do those things. But also those things are going to help improve your cortisol levels and lower inflammation. It's going to help you with your gut health. It's going to help with hormonal balance and blood sugar control, which inadvertently is going to help you with your thyroid levels and your energy and ability to build muscle mass, and you'll be able to sleep better. Everything is so tied together. So this is just another reason to do the things that we always tell you to do and to eat your freaking carbs. So I hope this was very helpful for you. I hope you learned some things. Go buy some sourdough bread. We should get sponsored by a sourdough bread company. I'm just like on this sourdough train. I just love it so much. But make sure you share this with your friends, anyone that's struggling with their gut health and their journey in general, or are terrified to eat carbs. Have them reach out to us. We'll help you figure out how to do that in the least scary way possible to help support your health, support your blood sugars. We love you so much, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.